11. Friends don't play.
Stop it! You're freaking her out!
She's freaking me out! The upside down.
Do you understand what he's talking about?
No. I found the chocolate bunny!
Oh God, please tell me it's not the kid.
I need you to hide!
Mornings are for coffee and contemplation.
Holy shit.
Welcome back. My name is Chris.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Streaming Things, a Stranger Things podcast. We're a little behind. Steve went to Spain. No, wait, Alabama.
I wish it was Spain.
We've taken a little bit of time to recoup. We've both, or all three of us rather, have watched the entire season. We're not going to lie to you. I think I finished it about 12 hours after we finished recording the first 3 episodes.
It's like 16 hours, give or take.
Might be. And then I've watched it twice since. Steve, you've seen the entire show, right?
Yeah, I had to watch something on my way down to Alabama, and so it was this show.
That's
On
right.
that long flight to Spain.
Yeah. Andy, you watched the entire show as well, right?
Yeah, I finished it about 16 hours after we finished the recording the last episode. I have not since rewatched it twice, but I'm itching to.
So it'll be more like our coverage of season 1, right? Where we had all seen the show, but we won't.
Yeah.
We've tried not to refer to later goings on as much as we can avoid it. I think our episodes, the way we're struggling to catch up, will be a little shorter than usual, but not without their usual flair and splendor. Also, it is worth noting for those that are listening that our show is going to be adapting. We'll probably try to make a new logo and a new bumper at the top, some new music, and just drift into a weekly discussion of whatever we've all been watching and what's going on in pop culture at that time, which I think is going to be really fun. We're working on adapting things to a YouTube channel. First, just the audio format, and then maybe some video of us recording these shows. Maybe Twitch. We don't know. Just hang in there.
There might be something. There might be something else on the listener's mind as they listen to our voices currently, and that question is, where's Sam?
Oh, yeah.
Where'd she go?
Sam. She's there.
So Sam's dead.
That's awful.
She never made it out of Alabama.
She's been
still
flayed. That's true. Yeah.
No, she's actually here in the apartment with me. We had to record separately today because of schedules and time restraints. So Sam's in the room with me. We just don't have a second mic. And she has given me, for those of you who want to know Sam's opinion on things, she has given me a list of things she wants me to address for this episode.
Really?
Awesome.
And by list, I mean there's one thing that she really wanted me to talk about.
One huge thing. Okay. That should be its own segment. Sam Says or something.
That's a segment Sam says.
Get it like Simon? So this is episode 4 of chapter 3 of, well, they call it chapters anyway. It's fucking season 3, chapter 4, The Sauna Test. Netflix describes it thusly. A code red brings the gang back together to face a frighteningly familiar evil. Karen urges Nancy to keep digging, and Robin finds a useful map. So, yeah, things are picking up. And as I recall, Steve and I were both kind of on the fence. Episode 3 kind of picked things up heavily for both of us. I think right about here is where I decided, okay, fuck yeah. And then within a few episodes, I was, with a little bit of recency bias, tempted to say this might be the best Stranger Things season for a lot of reasons. So I'm excited to talk about it. I definitely ended up loving this season once it got going. Steve, did you have the same experience? And that's the most I want to say about like the rest of the show. But just, I remember that's where we left off, was we were both on the fence.
So if you remember the last 3 episodes that we recorded, I think I was probably the most down on the season as a whole. Episodes 1 through 3, I was kind of like, yeah, it's fun, but I'm not feeling it. It's not grabbing me. The kids are all acting like cunts, specifically Mike. But this is the episode 4, the sauna test. This is the one that turned all that shit around. Because by the end of this episode, I was finally like, yes, this is what I was looking for in Stranger Things. I love it. And honestly, the season doesn't let up from this episode going forward. So I'm really excited to talk about why this episode in particular really stuck out to me and really kind of reminded me why I love this show so much.
Awesome.
Andy?
Hell yeah. Yeah, so I I was not down on this season. I loved it up to this point, and this episode was the fucking shit because it establishes the stakes moving forward. And I thought that it was done really effectively, and you get to see like the breadth of the issue and like there's still the group. I feel like the Netflix description is a little wrong because the group is still super fractured, but it like they're weakened in a way because they're not all together and they don't have all of their I don't know, teammate charm, if you want to call it. Dustin in there. That's the biggest problem. Dustin's not hanging out with his homies. And
where's Dustin?
Yeah.
I know.
Whenever the crew is fractured, it's like it kind of, I don't know, it should create conflict that's needed to shake things up after seasons and seasons, but it really gets less interesting for some reason.
Yeah, it's kind of like the fight that Lucas has with the rest of the group in season 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when they're fractured, they're at their weakest. But yeah, this episode was the shit. And like you guys said, from this episode on, it's just balls to the wall badassery. And
balls and walls.
I am here for it.
It's not just balls to the walls; it's balls in walls.
Yeah, I said "and," but that's even more disturbing. Like a glory hole? Is that what you? Yeah.
The walls have balls. There we go.
So the cold open of this episode is essentially a monsoon. Horror stormy house. 11's inside, I think, brushing her hair or something, brushing her teeth, and she's having visions of Billy and Heather, and you can see that she's unsettled. She's starting to realize that something is afoot, right? And then cut to her and Max, and they're having their little sleepover. Max talks her out of it and says, Billy's weird, not a big deal. The girl's fine. I did take note that Max's logic was a little goofy because this season it's all girl power, which I'm all about, right? They find the Wonder Woman comics. This episode in particular, there's a couple strong female moments that are meant to be highlighted in that way, in my belief. But then you have Max, one of those characters who's really smart and feisty and awesome. She says to 11, I don't know, she was bleeding and then she decided to take a cold bath and it's fine. And that was her logic, and left the blood everywhere, and she took an ice bath. Like, who the fuck does that? Nobody's done that since 1890 when they used to break fevers that way. I just thought that was weird for Max to just rationalize it that way. Like, she dumped 18 pounds of ice in the bath and took a bath, and left with the bags. Nothing
She's a
weird.
Professional athlete, basically.
Right.
Listen, 11, I know you grew up in the woods and you don't know a thing about modern medicine, but I'm a school ya. This is how you drop a fever. Everyone knows you dumb.
You leave the bags in.
You dumb.
You dumb.
I feel like this episode has a couple of times where it struggles with its logic, especially later when Will is trying to describe what happened last season. It kind of was like, oh yeah, that didn't really make any sense. They're like, well, we cut off the head and so the Demodogs died, but then the Thessal Hydra got inside me and then my mom got him out, and then it's like, whoa, hold up. What? That's not how it went down. Is that how it went down? I was just struggling with, they're struggling to explain what happened last season, so I feel like the viewer would struggle even more so.
But that is how it went down, is it not?
Yeah, but, the mom got him out of me, that, get out of my son! They cut to that, how? What? Why?
With those heaters.
Yeah, it was with the heaters. They because he likes it cold, so they put the space heaters next to Will and got him really, really hot. And that.
So, why doesn't that work this time? Sorry, I'm jumping ahead in the episode. Sorry,
way ahead, but it's fine. I think it almost does until he breaks the window.
Breaks the wind,
and then lets a lot of air in, and then he gets out of the room. And I think. Maybe Billy is a stronger, and he's, a stronger host, and he's more seated inside him. I mean, I bought it, but I was thinking the same thing.
I took it as technically it did work because there is that brief moment in time where it does leave Billy, and then it comes back, obviously. But also, I feel like its presence is spread across 30 people now, so it's not going to just vacate the premises like it did with Will, where it's got too hot in here, fuck you landlord, bye-bye, and fly up into the sky, whereas now it's kind of it's much more spread out, and it can cut one off and then re-engage the connection, as it were.
Yeah, I have a lot of things I think we could
It's Stranger Things.
cut straight through my bullshit, fly through a lot of my bullshit and talk about a few things like that at great length, which is my plan, because this episode had a lot of good shit. So Mac's teachers are about Wonder Woman. We cut to Mrs. Driscoll fighting to get in the ambulance because she wants to go to the steelworks and reunite with her flayed brethren, right? But she just looks like a schizophrenic crazy lady. And we get, anybody else catch who we get reunited with in that scene?
That's pedo cop.
Creepy cop.
Yeah, the psychopathic, was sociopath cop or something, what I used to say.
Yeah.
He was shook too. He was like, usually I'm the one who's the craziest one in the scene,
Right.
and that was not today, and I'm out of my element. I don't know what to do.
Actually freaking me out. It's weird that they split up the duo.
How do normies act around me? Because I need to act that way now.
Cut to Heather's parents, one of which is the head of the newspaper that Nancy works for, and they're being flayed. And watching that scene for the fourth time today, I don't know. You start to get overly critical when you've watched something like that so many times in such a short span. But I don't know. I just didn't buy it. It was weird. He's like arguing with it. Like, he wasn't as freaked out. Like, and it's tough in a movie, but it's like his daughter and her new boyfriend. I'm in some weird basement. I'm tied up. I've just been beat to shit. And he cuts right to like stereotypical, like, honey, you don't have to do this. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, do what? Like, you have no fucking clue what's going on right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would have just read that way differently. I don't know what he should have done, but that trying to talk her out of this thing, like he knows she's been down this path for a while and he caught her selling meth and she joined the gang, and you know what I mean? Like, he tried to get her out and then she pushed him away and he hadn't seen her in a year and now he's there. You know? Like, that's what it was like. But in reality, he's just like, what the fuck? Like, fuck you, bitch. Get me out of here. You know, I don't like your boyfriend at all. I was eating dinner. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
I think I have a concussion.
Yeah, right. Don't let me fall asleep again.
You blasted me with a bottle.
I hate your mother. I don't know why they came out of me. We need to talk about it.
I feel like there's always an interesting dynamic when it's the child taking power over the parent, and how the reaction should be in any situation like that, especially this one, because like, I don't know, they, like you said, he did get beat to shit and then hog-tied with his wife, and like everybody's acting super creepy, but at the same time it's like that's your kid there, so how do you react? I don't know, Chris. It's like, imagine your son, you get knocked out, you come to, and he's like, hello daddy, you know what I mean? You'd be like, you're fucking grounded, kid, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, he's sick, so I'd be more like, it would definitely be.
Just hearing Andy say hello daddy was off-putting.
If I woke up and Andy said that, it would be way worse. We cut to Hopper.
I've dreamt of this moment so long.
we cut to Hopper with a whoop-ass hangover, because he wakes up and Joyce has completely undressed him and placed him on the couch without any help, and he's a large man. What do you think he weighs? 240? 220? Yeah, 220, 240. How the fuck did she get him out of the place, into the car, out of the car, into the house, undress him?
Joyce can go.
Right, get that motherly strength. So, and then she's overly shy about his cock, even though she clearly just saw it because she undressed him. Right.
all right.
I don't know. Like I said, fourth time in like 1 week watching the show, you get overly critical, but I'm starting to think about things like this.
It's different when they're awake, though. I guess it's like, oh my god, now I love how they like, when he first starts coming to, he's all knocked out and stuff, and he's like, they cut to like these glamour shots of her looking down on him and him looking up at her, and like slight push in zoom and like a little bit of music, and then he starts like choking up and then fucking pukes, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it was a nice little come back to reality moment.
Absolutely. And I was really shocked the first time I saw him vomit like that, because, and it's realistic too. Like, he had been, severely kidney and gut punched, and,
Right.
drinks a lot anyway. So, but yeah, that was a good subversion of expectation. Her adorable attempt to get the license plate was pretty hilarious. So she's like, no, we got him. And Hop's like, what? What's that? And he's like, no, just track him down. What's that? It's his license plate. And Hop's like, oh, shit, for real? What are all the dashes? Those are blanks. This was like a Y or a V, a B or an 8 over here, and he's just like, Jesus Christ, that's not going to work. And she's like, what? Run that shit, do cop stuff.
That's me trying to remember my password on the online websites.
Right.
Yeah.
Which website, Steve? But he does get a clue from Joyce because it's not a car, it's a motorcycle. And he has seen somebody with a motorcycle helmet recently, and he's a fucking monster.
And that must be him. There's only one motorcycle in Hawkins.
But no one rides a sweet hog in Hawkins. No one's riding a hog in Hawkins.
He comes out, and I am vindicated because of the shirt he's wearing. Do you remember the argument that all three of us had at the end of episode 1, gentlemen?
About Tom Selleck?
About whether or not the show was Magnum PI, right?
Yeah.
Which it 100% is at that point. Am I wrong?
No, that's 100% a Magnum PI shirt.
Yeah. So I think that tracks, that was 100% Magnum PI that he was watching, right?
It would make sense.
Boom, boom. Anyway, could have just
Who's
Googled
a
it.
Magnum PI?
You're a Magnum PI. That's what I thought you said
Tom
for a second.
Selleck is in Magnum PI. Boom, boom, boom.
Mustaches.
Boom, boom, boom. Whatever. You know what I meant. I'm still right. Cut back to the crew trying to reunite, but they're having a lot of complications now that they've entered into romantic relationships.
Puberty?
There's some things afoot. Puberty has complicated the crew. Dustin is continuing to spy on the Russians with his cohorts, Ethan Hawke's daughter and Steve. Now, I just want to note that Andy and I found out like a week ago, right after we quit recording, that was Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's daughter, which is really neat.
That blew my mind. Someone told me at first, like, hey, did you know that's Ethan Hawke's daughter? I'm like, no shit, that's so cool. And then Andy's like, yeah, it's also Uma Thurman's daughter. I'm like, what? Duh, she looks just like her.
Steve's like, it takes two to make a baby. That's right.
Ethan Hawke has a relationship with Uma Thurman.
I'm putting all the clues together. It's like Joyce with
And
the
she
plate.
looks like you took one of those face meshing apps and put Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman together and just sprinkled on some freckles, and that's them.
And she's
You know
a
what I
really
mean?
good
Like-
actor.
Sweet
Oh, I know.
Robin.
Yeah, it's awesome. Steve has a terrible plan. He's trying to show off for Robin, and it's one of my favorite moments. So they're all in the ice cream shop, like, how do we get in? They got the key card, the guy with the gun. It just seems impenetrable. And Steve's like, well, we could just have me take him out. Get the key card. And Dustin's like, what? Sneak in, take him out. Oh, I forgot he has a gun. And Steve's like, yeah, that's why I said sneak. Duh. And Dustin's like, okay, you're forgetting the fact that you have never won a fight.
Yeah.
That's not true.
That was awesome.
Every season, Steve gets his ass handed to him by someone.
And I love, there's a lot of, this season in particular, I guess because the show is now established enough to do that and has the fandom to do fan service. But it has become, equally as much as we reference the 80s in the show can now reference itself.
Oh, yeah.
And we can have a good time. There should almost be a separate ego section because there's a bunch of times throughout this season where the show references itself, and it's really awesome. This is one of those moments where they've admitted, hey, we always have Steve get his ass kicked. He kind of sucks at fighting, so that's funny.
Can we call them Strangos?
Yeah.
Sorry, don't do that. That's weird.
That sounded like a weird. Yeah, I don't like it. Like
That
a
sounds
sex
illegal.
snack. It sounds illegal. Steve has a terrible plan. Then Robin has a plan, much better, and runs off. Cut to more Nancy at the hyper-sexist newspaper, which I think is the name. I don't remember. Yeah.
What, that's
The
the
Daily
name of that?
Sexist.
Yeah, like Hypersexism Gazette, maybe, or the Daily Sexist. Yeah. And they're getting
Anyone that hires a Busey, that's the
done.
only
You know
line of
what you're
work
in
they
for
can
at
get.
that point. They get fired. They got a huge lashing from their flayed boss, and he's all sweaty, and he's got the Band-Aid. Nancy's like, hey, this is kind of weird, but Jonathan's like, he's just so mad. He popped a vessel and is all sweaty.
I love that scene because much like it's so different than any other scene because that it's like the camera, it's like the DP showed
camera
up on
work
set
there
that
is
day
dope.
and he was like, Dutch angles, Dutch angles constantly. How are we going to
Dude, well, they
go ahead.
do this sudden switch to Dutch angle when he kicks the desk, and it's like a power change in the scenes. He's like, "You fucked up," and he kicks the desk, and as he kicks it, like the angle like tilts a little bit, and it like adds to the impact of the kick, and then that scene from the whole rest of that scene is all Dutch angles. It's really cool.
It's like when he kicked the desk, he accidentally moved the camera, and the DP's like, wait, no. Just leave it.
Leave it.
Dutch
Sound
angles all
designer,
day.
do you got any ideas for this moment? I do. How about like a grenade ring from like Platoon-esque era? Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You know the one Andy puts in his shitty short films? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Remember we did that?
I do remember that.
So,
It's
they
way
get
too
fired,
loud.
obviously, for tracking down Driscoll and then that whole charade. So then we cut back to Will, and this is what Andy was alluding to earlier, Will explaining how the Mind Flayer has returned, not just to them, but to the audience, very obviously. And another wonderful paper demo, which is kind of the show referencing itself, but I also think just the way that they do things, I actually really appreciate it that at least once a season, sometimes twice, we get one of the kids trying to explain some really obscure philosophical construct on which the plot hinges by using a piece of paper, maybe a pen, folding it around and illustrating, things like parallel universes and stuff. So in this season, we get Will, with some chalk, what is that? What's that? Not chalk.
Charcoal.
It's charcoal. Draw
Give
the
me my
Mind
charcoal.
Flayer.
I got to tell you something.
Rubs it on his hand. It was on me. Get the charcoal. Flips it over. Smears it on the other side of the paper. So now we get the there, and it fucking works. As stupid as it is, like I get it. Like there's a tiny piece of the flare rubbed on the paper of this plane of existence. Yeah,
But
moving on.
Oh, never mind. I was leaning towards spoilers for later episodes. I guess I can't do that, so never mind. Moving
Andy,
on.
we haven't seen them theoretically, right?
Correct.
And also
There are more episodes?
They also get perfectly theorized that there must be hosts and maybe other hosts now that the Mind Flayer is maybe back. So they basically figure everything out immediately because they're smart little kids. They've been through this quite a few times. Cut to Magnum Hopper storming City Hall and torturing the mayor, which is my notes because that's exactly what fucking happens. And it's awesome, but also kind of crazy.
One thing I liked about this scene is it kind of confirmed a couple jokes we would make about Hopper, and especially in the first season where Hopper was like popping
Sir Punch a lot,
pills and drinking a lot, and the mayor's like, what if I tell old Tom at the Hawkins Post about all those pills you've been popping? Shortly after Hopper tries to extort him with all of his philandering and misdeeds, and it's just kind of like, I guess it's not quite a big secret or that around town that Hopper used to be... Hopper used to party.
Hop likes to party. It's
So
true.
he's past the point of partying. He used to party, and now he's just in a downward spiral.
Yeah, now he's partying. I drink alone. He's doing what we like to call George Thorogooding it at this point in his life. But he's on the up and up now that he's got a daughter.
Yeah, he's doing
other than
great.
torturing the mayor every now and again. Yeah. So then we get cut back to the second time in this one episode that the show references itself as soon as it cuts from Hopper torturing the mayor. And then they find out about all the land deeds and the property and that the mall's involved. So Hopper is zeroing in on the same thing that the other two crews are zeroing in on, right? We cut to Nancy going, it's bullshit. Did anyone else catch that?
Yeah. Like she says bullshit before it even cuts to her. Like it hasn't quite transitioned to a visual of Nancy, and you just see it's bullshit.
And she even kind of said it in that drunk tone. It had to be super intentional.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Dude, the Duffers listen to this show.
Oh,
They
for
have
sure.
to.
For sure. Huge fans, by the way.
They had-
Those who are
they-
just listening for the first time, huge fans, the Duffers.
They had another reference as well in that same scene. Did you guys catch it? When Nancy actually gets home and she like storms upstairs, Karen's like, "Hey!" But then Karen stops at the steps and is like, "Damn it, I can't go up there."
Oh, and she used to follow her into her room and shit, right?
Well, remember how we used to joke that like both Karen and Ted couldn't cross the threshold upstairs.
Oh, yeah, they would just stop at the stairs like, she got away again.
Eventually, Karen does get up there in this episode, but like the
But she
scene
would
cuts with
never
her not
enter the
being able to
room.
get up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it burns
Like,
her hand.
damn it, she got up there.
They show
Foiled.
the upward struggle.
Burns. Yeah, so I think this scene was amazing. Talking about the part where Jonathan and Nancy are in the car, they end up having this, I don't know, something I really resonated with, where they fight about class differences and gender differences. You know what I mean? It's Jonathan's upset that she got him fired, and she's upset that he's not backing her up. And he's like, "You're just a spoiled fucking little bitch. And I'm broke now. Like, seriously, I support my family." And she's like, "I was being demeaned. Why would you even want to work there? Like, it was awful." And so he thinks that she's naive and spoiled, and she thinks that he has no idea the extra hurdles that she has to go through just by being a woman. And they just both agree to not understand one another. And it's very sad at the end there, but I thought that was just a huge moment in the show itself and in this episode for sure, where there's a really broad theme there. And I think that it's very difficult, and here's where I'm going to take it too far, but what resonated with me is that for me, two good people in the real world often do that. Like how liberals eat their own, or, anyone that I might argue over an issue with. We both have legitimate grievances and legitimate life experience that prevents us from understanding or identifying with the other, but we're both against like the real evil. You know what I mean? Like anytime you argue politics or philosophy with somebody who thinks it believes in freedom and truth and justice, and you know what I mean? But you still have this huge fight, and like you should both be united against Nazis and people who are against homosexuals having rights, and people who are against like obviously the wrong things is what they're for. You know what I mean? Right. But you're just fighting with another normal person over something minute, and I don't know. Does that make sense? I was rambling there, but like that's what I saw in that scene. Is they're both right, but they have some ultimate evil is who they should be united against, and literally in this show's case. But I don't know.
Class war.
Steve just chimes in at the end. Yep. It's the classic class war. I pictured your Steve from the Age app when you said that.
No, that really was a really super affecting scene. It was almost like a more liberal and more independent kind of point of view. But the dynamic of workplace sexism, which she's got a ways to go before it gets better, and it's still not better now, so that sucks because Nancy's old now and still dealing with that sexism stuff, whereas Jonathan is straight white male.
Nancy's not real.
Well, oh my god.
What?
She's a fictional character.
But that just struck me a lot.
35 years from now, so she's in her 60s, 50s?
50s or 60s, yeah, but still looking good, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Her hair is vastly different again.
Do you think she watches the show?
Our show? Oh, Stranger Things. Damn it.
Andy, no one watches our show. They listen to our show.
Yet.
I'm just dunking on Andy for this entire episode. I don't know why.
We get to the chocolate pudding, you're just like, fuck you!
My number one chocolate pudding is when Andy looked like a bitch.
Ironically, this is the point in my notes. I'm glad you guys are doing this, where I just have written blank because I answered my cell phone and talked for I don't know how long. And then it says they suspect Billy. So I don't think that's the way it actually went down. But
I think the only thing you missed was a cut back to the Scoops Ahoy folk, and they're trying to fit Dustin up into the air duct.
Oh, that scene. Yeah, that was a good scene too. Damn it.
Touch my butt.
Yeah, touch my butt. Posh. So yeah,
Dustin's don't even care. Touch my butt.
So that's the plan that Robin had. Is she had the blueprints of the mall, and they found that the ventilation system went into the area they were trying to get into, and they just need to crawl through the vents. And Dustin must be small enough, but he's not. Apparently, he has no shoulder bones or whatever, and it still can't quite fit. So cut back to the other part of the crew, and they have like 11 in the gang. Max and Nims is what I'll start calling it. Suspect that Billy might be one of the people who's hosting the Mind Flayer. So So they talk about it, and they see that he's covered in towels and umbrellas and all kinds of shit at the pool. And they're like, oh, no, Billy always shows as much skin as he can. Okay, he's got dibs on skins. So...
What's that movie with Orson Welles? Like a really old Orson Welles where he's like, what is it? It's like a sci-fi movie where he makes like people animals on an island.
I don't know.
God.
He like Billy looked like Orson Welles in that movie where he's like draped in like a white gown with like thick sunglasses and a hat.
Oh, are you talking about the island of Dr. Moreau?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I only saw the other one, the newer one with Val Kilmer.
Yeah, it's that one.
It's the only one I've ever seen, but
yeah, that one. Yeah, Orson Welles is I guess he's Dr. Moreau in that movie in the beginning of it.
I don't know that I knew that till just now, Steve. I'm not going to lie, because I was a child when I saw that. Didn't know who Orson Welles was, but I knew who fucking Val Kilmer was because he'll be my Huckleberry, and I always remember that.
I had to make a huge thesis of the sci-fi genre in college, like a video essay of sci-fi, and The Island of Dr. Moreau was a semi-significant part of that thesis.
Nerd.
You guys both got me beat. I've never seen either of them.
I'll link to that thesis in the show notes, yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait to read it. I actually might.
It's a video essay.
We cut to the boys only part of the plan, which is really fucked up at first because, you know, all the significant others are fighting in the crew and then they're like, boys only. And I love how he doesn't. He's such an idiot. He doesn't explain. It would take 2 seconds to be like, no, it's because it's the boys' locker room. That's where we're going. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's not offensive at all. Instead, he's just like, boys only, roll out. Trust me, bitches. And then, you know,
no, really trust me. Just tell us.
Cut to the boys just playing video games, laughing at how dumb the girls are, which is just a scene in their minds. No, because it's a locker room, and you realize quickly they go into the sauna with all the gross old men, and they're like, oh, they're going to try to put Billy in the sauna.
If I was a kid, that sight of all the old dudes would scar me for life.
Apparently it did. Was it Lucas that was like, I think I'm going to be sick?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole notion of a sauna, I barely understand in adulthood, so that would be super weird as like a 13 or 14-year-old for sure. Cut to what I've called Erica be trippin'. I love Erica, and I love what they're doing with her character. Because it was a total plot. I always hated her. It was just like the little sister. Do you know before? Like just annoying, mean, like an annoying, mean little sister. Like always saying scathing things at Lucas, just cutting in and out. And I think that they took a look at that. And part of the raising of the female characters in this show, too, all of a sudden she's like borderline genius. You know, very educated in politics and science. She's a nerd. We find out later, right? Very strong-willed. Anyway, so Chips Ahoy, whatever it is, Scoops Ahoy, that crew, the Scoops troop, they recruit Erica to crawl through the air vent, and what she requires is a lifetime supply of ice cream to help them out. Dustin,
it's short-sighted. That ice cream place ain't going to be open forever.
No, not very much longer at all.
That mall ain't even going to be open forever.
Not very much longer at all, I assume.
The deal is only with Steve and Sweet Robin, so I mean they're not going to be employed at Scoops Ahoy their whole life. I mean,
very short-sighted. You're right. I'll cut her back down from genius level. I mean, she's still a child though.
That's true. And I do love the scene because it has one of my favorite lines this whole season, which is you can't say America
without Erica.
Yeah,
Dustin's face like. Oh, shit. Yeah, that's weird to bring up, but that's true. So then he appeals to her patriotism, and she listens to his whole speech. And there's like this awesome, weird Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction moment where she's just destroying the milkshake, pretending to listen to him, and you can hear the slurping over his speech. And she's like, oh, that gave me chills. Not your speech, the malt. You know, I don't know. It was just, I feel like Tarantino's just writing Erica's lines, and I fucking love it. I don't know. It just, you know what I like about America, Dustin? Capitalism. Which is a free market economy where people are rewarded based on the size of their contributions. And being ass, you know, just like, holy shit, who's monologuing this girl right now? This is awesome.
Dustin, may I please have a drink of your tasty beverage?
Right. And then Robin's like, what? And she's like, say what again? That would be awesome. So, and that might even be an Eggo. Who fucking knows? These guys watch a lot of movies. Cut back to Hoyce which what I'm calling Hopper and Joyce. If they were a power couple, I mean, what do you like, Jopper?
I'm Team Jopper, bro.
Jopper's better. Hoist was ridiculous. I'm sorry. Cut back to Jopper. And hilarious for our show. She says, she runs to the map because the mayor, of course, would have a map of Hawkins on his wall right as they're trying to figure out what all these land deeds mean. And she's like,
we should have
Hopper,
screenshotted that, dude.
What else is near Jordan Lake? And my first thought was Steve's house, I'm assuming.
I was expecting like one of those like orange stickers like in the middle of the map that just says Steve's house.
Yeah. Right at the center, real giant.
Yeah.
And she's like, the power plant. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it turns out Hawkins is actually pretty big. And they figure out that that's why the power plant had went down for a moment recently, and that the Russians are up to something, or whoever's up to something. And so they take off to the last of the properties they haven't checked, right? Eventually, Hess's
the Hess
land.
farm, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cut back to another wonderful... See, this episode had a shitload of puddings. Karen and Nancy moment where... Yeah. Karen gives her a big speech and talks her out of her severe depression. You're strong-willed. You'd never give up. And there's a hilarious joke where she pretends she got it from Ted, obviously, and which is awesome.
Throwing shade, dude.
Yeah, just throwing old Ted under the bus. And then, I don't know, good mother-daughter moment that sends Nancy back on her mission to see what's up with the Driscoll. Cut back to the boys' plot with the sauna.
Wait, hold on. The Nancy Karen conversation was doubly great. One thing that I picked up on a second viewing that I didn't the first, it confirmed something we've thought about Karen all along, is that when Karen was younger, Karen was quite the go-getter. Mm-hmm. She has that moment where she's like, the world sucks. The world will tell you that you can't do this, you can't do that, that you can't do anything. And she has this moment where she almost says, she says, I, before stopping herself. She's like in terms of like, I can't do it. She goes, I, and then stops herself and then corrects herself to, you can't do it. And which implies that she fell victim to this.
Going through that, or even like recently.
Yeah, because she pretty much admits that she gave up. And so in this conversation with Nancy, she's urging her daughter not to make the same mistake she did when she was in that position, is to always believe in yourself and keep standing up for yourself and fighting. And this leads me to the one note that Sam had me write down for you guys, and that is that Sam wanted everyone to know.
This week's episode of Sam Says.
We need a drop for that. No, Sam says that Karen is a saint, Karen is living her best life, and Karen deserves any goddamn thing she wants. And that is what Sam says.
I'm thinking that they're leaning this way, and I hope that it happens. I hope Karen leaves Ted in season 4. Like, doesn't have to be any like character assassinating infidelity, but just a pointed, this is not making me happy, I am leaving. Nothing wrong with that. Are we agreed?
Right.
I mean, why should she be stuck somewhere she's clearly not happy? Because, not to reference later in the show too much, but there's some moments where it focuses heavily on like the miserable dynamic of their relationship, and not in, to me, a very comical way. Not after the first couple times. I mean, it's just kind of like, damn. So that's what I hope for Karen. I know it sounds awful. In season 4,
get divorced.
She leaves her. I wish a divorce upon her. Yes.
That's all of season 4. There's no like Mind Flayer or 11 with powers. It's the divorce of Karen and Ted.
Fucking Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah. Baby Holly's in the middle.
So then we cut to the boys plotting their sauna heist, and Mike's a fucking dork. He's like pretending the CPR mannequin's talking and snitches on Hopper. He finally comes clean to 11 and says, this is why I've been lying to you. And 11's cold as ice. And she's like, I know. And then plot twist, girl power, because he's like, hey, Hopper's a dick. Isn't everything great? And I love, there's 3 reasons at least, maybe 2, that I love this particular scene, because they're not going with like the fuck Hopper plot line. And we know for a fact, because we've seen the rest of the show, which I was super relieved about, right? Because nobody's ever like super mad at Hopper for doing all that at any point in this season, which would have been tiresome to me. But also that Eleven's not like mad at him at all. She's like, maybe he's right. You know what I mean? If I'm hanging out with you all the time, and she's like punching his chest and shit, how am I going to hang out with girls and be with my own species? And she's kind of still mad about the shit she saw when she was spying, but also it's like a valid point for, you know, any grown up to realize, like, hey, I need a balance in my life. Not just this fuckboy that I hang out with sometimes. So I really enjoyed that. But Mike does figure out that she's been spying, and he's like, oh, that's against the rules. And she's like, I make my own rules. And Max taught me that saying, huh. I saw online, it never really occurred to me, but a film critic that I really respect thought it was vastly unbelievable and highly annoying that Eleven still struggles to speak on occasion. And we had all noted that it's silly because she's occasionally very articulate. What do you guys think about that? Because in this episode, I noticed it a couple times where like they're reading Wonder Woman and Eleven's like, yeah, and then the Pythagorean theorem, and then we cut back to her, and all of a sudden she's like, what, that book? And it's just like, what? I really want Max or somebody with her to be like, huh? Why the fuck are you talking like that?
That's because she's been hanging out with Mike too much.
When she's like 8 or 9 in season 1, it's fucking, and it's great. You know what I mean? Because she's never been around people that much, and friends don't lie, and like that. I loved it. But now it's kind of just like, it's been 5 years. I don't know. Like I understand the concept she wouldn't get, but just the way that her diction bothers me when it's pointed like that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I feel like they needed to have suspended disbelief at this point and be like, okay, she's just straight up fluent now. You know what I mean? Just let her speak normally, because like, I don't know, like I studied French for 5 years. She speaks better English than I do French. You know what I mean? Like I think she actually, when she's eloquent, speaks better than she ought to for having sitting around reading one book, Make Better Mouth or whatever the fuck it was. But it just is not good storytelling to let that keep being a defining characteristic for her. So,
and inconsistently.
Especially because it's inconsistent. I really hope that they just let her speak normally next season. And maybe like once or twice throughout the whole season, have her say something ridiculous. You know, like those scenes where somebody goes up to speak a foreign language and they're all hot shit, like, oh, I know what I'm saying. They go up and try to say, how do you do? It's really nice to meet you. And they ended up saying, like, making love to a goose egg. You know what I mean?
And it doesn't even have to be the way she talks, but just her ignorance of the world. Like,
sure,
they do that in hilarious, fun ways all the time. There's a couple moments in this episode. One of my favorite moments is when Will's trying to explain why he knows that the mind flayer's back, and it's because he can feel him. And somebody says, what does it feel like? And he's like, do you know what it's like when you're on a roller coaster? And then it's like cut to each of the kids. Yes. Yeah, totally. No. And because 11 has never been on a roller coaster, but she says it like normal. Just no. You know what I mean? Like, that's the shit I like. Or what's good scream. Like that shit. That's funny to me, and that makes sense that she'd be a little behind, but she can fucking talk. Anyway, Hop and Chopper searches all of the properties that they found. We cut back to Billy in the shower again. Can we get this man out of the shower, please? Especially since I noticed, and this is huge, he doesn't dry when he showers. He just walks right out. We cut to him with pants on, getting in his locker, still drenched. Who the fuck does that? How'd he get his boxers on? Because, you know, they catch a lot if you're wet still. Especially if you're wearing the tight ones. Those take forever to get on.
Billy's just perpetually moist. Like,
very moist.
And sorry
man.
to listeners that don't like that word, but if you rewatch a show, he's never not moist.
It's true.
Or mildly damp.
Well, he is being controlled, so maybe that's part of it as well.
Yeah. Maybe he likes to be moist, the mind flayer. So we cut back to this weird little...
he likes it wet.
There's weird little horror sequence ensues where the monster is the children, which I really liked. Billy. And I'm sure there's some ego there that I didn't catch. Billy. And he's running through the locker room and they trap him in the sauna using a walkie-talkie taped to the mannequin. And he after he realizes it's a mannequin, decides to choke slam it, force choke it. Yeah. Oh, you're not a person.
I thought that was really weird that he clearly knows that's a dummy, but he goes ahead and just grabs it by the throat and holds it up like he's about to fucking interrogate it.
Yeah, where are the kids? You can't hold out much longer. Yeah, and then 11 uses her powers, throws him back in. They slam the door, and it was very well executed. I loved it. Slide the bar in, lock the chain, boom, done, went off. Cut back to Nancy investigating at the hospital. She pretends to be Driscoll's granddaughter, and she's later going to find out that there's all kinds of weird shit going on. Because as the heat increases in the sauna, Mrs. Driscoll's face starts to blacken and has this death maul scream, and Nancy's just always standing there with a clipboard looking left and right oh, shit. Why
I
do you
feel
look
like a doctor should be coming in right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of beeping. You look like The Mummy, that movie that comes out in 20 years. Do you know what I'm talking about with the jaw when it opens in the sandstorm? It's crazy. That's what you look like, though. And then
the guy from Encino Man's going to star. It's going to be wild.
It's going to be like his real last hurrah in Hollywood. It's really sad, actually. He seems like a nice guy. And then we cut back to Steve, the Scoops troop, flying down the elevator shaft. So they successfully get in there. They find the green goop, the energy goop. But they get trapped in there and then starts to drop down. They get the shaft, is what I'm saying. They get shafted.
If you die, I die.
Cut back to Billy winning Best Actor of the Show Ever award as the heat kicks up. What is his name? Dacre? The actor's name's...
Deacon?
Oh.
It's like D-A-C-R-E or
yeah.
something. I think it's
Yeah.
Dacre or something.
Montgomery.
Dacker.
Yeah. Anyway, he's a fucking incredible. Watching it this last time today, I was like, wow, that's really good. And I think there's two ways to read this because you alluded to it earlier, Steve, of like you read it one way specifically, that was the real Billy pleading for help. And I think it could also be read as the mind flayer trying to get Max to approach the window, though. Or some version of both where he lets Billy out for a second, maybe, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I could understand why someone would have that thought. The only reason why I kind of lean more towards it being Billy getting control for a second is he starts crying and then he doesn't start reaching for what is it, like a piece of broken tile that looks like a knife?
Yeah.
He doesn't start reaching for that until Will gets his little
Rick
tingle.
senses that he's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because I initially had he's duping her theory or just way of reading that scene without thinking of it until this watch today. And that's when I started to kind of there's really two different ways to read this, that's actually sincerely Billy crying for help.
And there's also something that happens shortly after this that we'll touch on that makes me also still believe that it's more Billy in control in that moment than the monster.
Mm-hmm. So I thought watching this, and maybe Andy did too, because he's even sicker than I am, that Billy was going to kill himself with that tile. And I thought that either the mind flayer was making him do it, or just that Billy doesn't want to be controlled, and that's how he's going to save his family from being hurt by him. And I love that idea, and I'm sorry, I wish he had done it. That would have shocked because as soon as he's reaching for the tile and he's locked in there, they can't help him. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And that would have been awesome.
Dope.
And crazy. Andy, you agree?
Oh yeah, that would have been fucking dope.
And they didn't do
start
it.
mutilating himself and shit.
Yeah.
Or the more PG version of doing that is him threatening to do it and starting to bleed a little, holding it up to his throat, starting to bleed a little bit, and then Max is like, "Oh my god, I gotta let him out."
Sure.
And then he runs away.
That would have been, there you go. That would have been a smarter way to have him get out, because rather than him, it kind of reminded me of Glass. Like the monster when the veins explode and he gets superhuman strength. Talking about James McAvoy?
Yeah.
When Billy flexes his black veins and like the flare fully takes over, he seems to have like this greater strength where he's able to bust, through the door now.
Yeah, he can bust through the door. He can fight off Eleven's telekinetic powers,
right?
To some degree, like he's definitely got his own type of powers in some way when he's being controlled by this much of the mind flare.
Yes. And it's weird too, and this is why I wanted to talk about like the philosophy of this season in general a little bit. We know now that they're at the end of this episode, and then obviously going forward, that there are many flayed citizens. Billy seems to be the ringleader. Like more of the mind flayer is in him than in anyone else. And I don't know how they justify that other than him being one of the titular characters. And I'm okay with it because Billy's awesome, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
He's been possessed the longest.
Yeah, I guess. But then with what happens at the end of the show, or the season, that doesn't make any sense at all. Do you know what I'm saying? But we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so yeah, go ahead.
That scene where Billy gets away and he... we see
so then we have the fight with 11 and Billy, and power struggle. Most of the kids watching in horror that don't do anything to help until Mike hits him, and then throws Billy through the wall. Go ahead.
But yeah, he meets up with the rest of the flayed people at the steelworks. He talks to Heather specifically, and there's this moment where Heather's asking him, which is kind of funny. Like if you're this like omniscient being that controls everything that everyone does, it's kind of weird to have two characters that you control have a conversation with each other like that.
Right. Yeah, but I don't understand how that works. I think that it's almost like they're still them. They're just like contaminated as far as their hopes and wishes, and they want I don't know.
But there's this interesting moment where Billy says something to the effect. Heather asked him, like, was it the girl? And he's like, yeah, she could have killed me. To which Heather responds, yeah, but not us.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
And that was awesome in a way that it like shows that there's so many more people that are, being taken over by the monster. But it also I think accentuates the point that there is some individuality left in Billy.
That whole thing, as soon as the 11 throws Billy through the wall, the score picks up. Like the sound, the actual sound effects, the diegetic noises die down, and then the score takes over, and it's like it's almost kind of slow-mo-y. And then you see 11 crying because she
falls into Mike's arms.
Somebody almost got the best of her for the first time in many episodes, which was super scary. Just to see 11 being choked like that's weird for us, right? And it's I've seen it 4 times now, and it's still like, oh shit, no, like it's weird.
Get off of her.
Yeah, you bastard. I don't know. I just thought the score was outrageously good in that part in particular, and then that like. Steve, you probably know the song, the 60s song, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the way that played out, saying we'll meet again or whatever, like it was all just so well done. Like that episode,
I love
perfect.
Creepy oldies music in a horror context. It's so good.
Do you know what makes me think of, and it's terrible because the director's a weirdo, what the fuck was it? The guy that's like a child abuser that makes those movies, the horror films, Jeepers Creepers. Ironically, is the name.
Oh, that dude. I don't know his name.
It's like based around that old song. So, Jeepers, Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Anyway, it makes it scary. It's scary. Anyway, that was a weird illusion. Moving on to our Easter Eggos segment, because my lack of climate control is really getting to me. This is where we find all the Easter eggs, or as many as we can, as many 80s references in each episode as we can. And we try to have a structure to it, but we end up going willy-nilly every time. Steve, start us off with an Eggo.
I guess I'll start off with the easy ones right at the beginning. We get to see the Wonder Woman and Green Lantern comics that Max is providing 11.
Oh, was there a Green Lantern there too?
Yeah, she brings up 2 of them, and then 11 focuses obviously on the Wonder Woman, but Green Lantern is the other one. I didn't really check to see like if there was any sort of importance as to those particular 2 issues, but
I'm sure there is.
Freeze frame, what happens in them? Yeah, let's do that. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Is mentioned by Larry Klein.
Which is an apt metaphor for our Russian hitman guy.
Who is the Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a shitload of Terminator references with that guy throughout the rest of the show. I got a few obscure ones, so I'll just say Red Dawn is an obvious one. We've probably already mentioned 3 times. But every time I see a Russian, I'm going to bring it up.
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
I got 2 ones that are stretches. Do you have any more obvious ones or some music things or anything, Steve?
Yeah. Do you want me to just plow through the ones I have left?
Do some plowing. This is our segment called Steve's Plow.
Steve's plowing.
Oh
He's
my
so in the
God, I
notes.
love it.
In Max's room, there's a poster for the movie The Endless Summer, which I looked up because I wasn't sure what that was. Apparently, it's a documentary about surfing,
Oh, cool.
which is apt for Billy and Max since they're from the West
Cali.
Coast. I didn't know what to call this, but in Hop's room, do you remember those old white and red cracker tins that were like everywhere? Like I know, like growing up, my mom had this like metal tin that you would
Like
just
a bread
put
box?
Yeah, but you would like specifically put like saltine crackers in, and Hopper
don't
had
think
one of
so.
those, and I was like, oh, so I wrote it down. Steve mentions Gumby, but he calls him Gumbo. There is a My Little Pony backpack that Erica is wearing. And then finally, the song at the end is called We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn. Another appropriate song to use, not only because clearly they're going to meet again and fight someday, but also it was used famously in Doctor Strangelove, which is a Russia versus America story.
Wow.
Nice. Very nice find, Steve.
So those are my gets. What about you, Chris?
A little Kubrick action. So the one that's a super stretch I completely made up was when Erica's talking about when she gets into the Russian base, she's asking questions about, is there going to be any booby traps, lasers? And she says something else. And I thought to myself, is that like a really far stretching Indiana Jones throwaway? Because she says something else. But again, I completely made that one up. Again, I make these up sometimes. And then I think the air vent is intentional, though, both with her, Dustin, and then later for sure with Murray. A Die Hard reference, is it not?
Oh, yeah, it could be.
Sneaking through air vents with Russians and stuff? Because the first one, they're definitely Slavic, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's an apt metaphor because Die Hard is very famous for all the air duct traversal. I mean, I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine recently, and anytime there's an air duct in that show, they're like, Die Hard. So
Apparently, I need to watch that fucking show.
show's
Now
great.
I'm not getting the gifts anymore. Andy, I know you had a struggle with the notes and stuff. Do you have any egos you wanted to throw out?
No, not really. That's the
Okay.
ones you guys
I didn't
said.
want to
Did you
throw you
guys
under the
get
bus,
any?
but I want to leave you
When
there.
Hopper was beating up Klein, did you get a Mission Impossible 2 vibe when he went to cut his finger off with the cigar
'cause
cutter?
he cuts the dude's finger off with a cigar cutter too.
Yeah, it's like the tip of the fucking cocaine finger. Yeah.
Later on in the series, they're going to find out, like, wait, that's not the mayor, because see, the mayor has missing a finger, just like in Mission Impossible 2.
I think when he's in Mayor Klein's house too, like that palm tree wallpaper mixed with his shirt is something like Scarface, or you know what I mean? Like
his
it
whole
reminds me
house
of-
is like an ode to cocaine 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So-
No shit.
yeah. I think it's like a Scarface thing or something. But I always thought of Grand Theft Auto Vice City with him in that shirt in that house. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, cocaine 80s. That's a whole subculture.
That's a genre.
No, for sure. Now, time for our chocolate pudding segment. We found the chocolate pudding where we name our top 3 favorite moments of the episode. Steve, do you have a number 3? Because I got 9 moments I need to pick 3, 2, 1 out of real quick.
I do have a number 3. My number 3 is Erica explains capitalism. It was just it was a really fun scene, just getting to see more of Erica, and she's showing just how, we as a viewer, but also the characters of the show have kind of underestimated Erica, thinking she's just kind of this mean person that just quips out mean statements. But no, she's actually really smart. She like breaks down capitalism. She's a suave negotiator. And you can't say America without Erica. So, she's the real patriot here. And also, Operation Child Endangerment is a hilarious mission name. So good on you, Erica.
That was my number 3 as well. I didn't know where it was going to fall, so I just made it number 3 since you were already talking about it.
You're welcome.
But the Dustin and Erica America scene is what I put it. That whole, like I said, her monologue, that whole shakedown was just awesome. Very well done. Very entertaining. Andy, you're number 3.
My number 3 was Hopper beating up Klein, Mission Impossible 2 style. It was just a cool, effective scene. It was cool to see Hopper back in his element after getting his shit kicked out of him the last episode. I thought it was really affecting, subtle way to... I don't know if you can call it subtle, but the way that they brought up his tragic backstory, I feel like that's the only time up to this point that they've mentioned Sarah, when he says, don't give me the dead daughter's sob story or whatever, because I don't care.
It's been a minute.
Dude's a complete sleazeball. And
that's when he snaps, which was cool too.
Yeah, it was cool to get him to see him get his comeuppance, and then Joyce in the secretary room being a badass and ripping the phone cord out and stuff. I'm like, you're going to want to sit down.
Yeah, sit down.
What are you going to do? Call the police?
Yeah, that was awesome. And that's funny because it's kind of a mom logic thing. Like,
right.
Duh, he's the cops.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Steve, you're number 2.
Because Hopper's the cop. Get it?
Yeah.
Get it? My number 2 is the conversation between Karen and Nancy. I think this is the first truly heartfelt scene in the entire series in this season up to this point. And it really kind of gave a lot of breath to Karen's character. It really reconciled the relationship between the two, because up until this point they've really been kind of like almost, and they've been antagonists to one another, mostly because like it's more of a mom get out of my room type antagonism, but just to see them finally connect as mother and daughter on such a real awesome level was good to see.
That is my number 2 as well. This time I had already written that, so that one was an organic coming together. No, I was again watching it for the umpteenth time today, and I looked over. I was watching with my 6-year-old because I'm a terrible parent, and I look over during this scene, and I expect him to be bored because there are no demo dogs or monsters or any of the kids, or what I mean, no flashing. He is in rapt attention at this scene, and then when Karen says "shithead," which Nancy finds cute and like, Mom, my son went, he had this huge smile and giggle and went, Mom, and like he said it too, like, what I mean, like he got everything about it, and that was naughty for her to say as a mother, and that really hit home with him as a 6-year-old. And it was just fascinating to watch everything that the filmmakers intended just play out in, on my son's face and in his reaction. And like, I was so happy that he was, and then slowly his smile went away and he was slack jawed, just like staring, getting the movement of it as well, that she was being inspired by, you know what I mean? And I don't know. It was just really cool to watch.
I love hearing stories about kids watching stuff like that and just like how it affects them and them getting it. And it's so cool that you got to see that.
Yeah, that was awesome. So that's my number 2. Andy, your number 2.
My number 2 and number 1 are kind of tied together, but I'll just say that my number 2 is the Body Snatchers ending, with Billy saying like, she could have killed me, and Heather saying, but they can't kill us, and the creepy badass Veer Lynn song as they pull back and revealed, like, that to me was, here's the stakes, here's them stakes, and they are well done. And fucking like all the people there, and like it's like, holy shit, there's this is a lot bigger. I don't know, it just felt like this season shitload more than season 2 and almost more than season 1 feels like it has stakes that didn't it feels like more danger. It feels like more of a horror movie, and that was you guys know how much I love horror movies, so that to me was like a, oh fuck yeah moment.
Yeah,
here them stakes.
Steve, what is your number 1?
My number 1 is Billy in the sauna, because he got them abs. No, because it's just like, it's such an intense scene. I remember the first time watching this, I was just glued to the screen. I just didn't know what was going to happen. And then obviously seeing just the power that he exerts, you know, breaking out of the room and fighting Eleven, and just Eleven going unhinged with her powers on him. You get the awesome badassness that you love to see from Eleven, but you also see that she's kind of meeting her match. You get to see the great acting from Billy, the conundrum that Max is facing with confronting this issue that her brother has, and then the other boy is just helpless. Will's not really helpless, but especially Lucas, just kind of helpless to do anything in the face of this new threat that just literally explodes out of the sauna at them.
And I think they're, I got frustrated today watching it, like, fucking do something, because she's just getting choked, and they're all just like, it's cutting to each face like, ah. But looking back and really thinking about it, like, they're shocked that their invincible friend is in this position, right? Like, holy shit. Because like the scene before that, when he's still in the sauna and he's about to break out, she's got both arms out, get behind me, do you know what I mean? Protecting all of them. And they're all like perpetually going to always be like, get him, 11, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's our friend and she's crazy.
She's going to make you pee your pants.
Yeah, so I think they're just like, oh shit, what do we do?
Yeah.
And then Will snaps out of it, or Mike snaps out of it and hits him with a hammer or whatever, the pole. So Andy's number 2 is my number 1. There's the very ending. Didn't think much of it the first time I saw it. I think I was probably looking at my girlfriend, making a joke like, ooh, shit hit the fan, and ready for the next episode. But watching it in isolation today, from almost purely a filmmaking standpoint, because I'd seen the plot so many times, and I was like, holy shit, that is well done. Just the score, the build up to the song. I don't know even what that is, Andy. Like it's not quite
Dolly
a pan.
out.
Huh?
Dolly out.
Yeah, the dolly out. Fuck the logic of why them two are talking and everyone else is frozen. It reminded me of a Westworld shot in the freezer, like the basement of all the old, whatever you call them, the robots. But yeah, I just was like, holy shit, that was really well done. Excellent.
Hosts.
And I
God,
knew
that took a
that
second.
someone else was going to bring up Billy's acting in the sauna, so I left that, knowing that was going to get touched on. Andy, you're number 1.
My number 1 is Steve's number 1. Just the whole sauna sequence. Billy fucking killed it in that scene. He was just the range of acting within that 2.5-3 minutes that Mr. Montgomery achieves was pretty phenomenal. I had not thought about the kids standing back in horror reaction that you just described, seeing their trump card get beat to shit. Well, not beat, you know what I mean. But that makes me love it even more. Everything about that sequence was fucking dope, and so that's why it's tied into 1 with me. Because even like the impact of Billy getting thrown through the wall was like, just more affecting for some reason. I'm not sure what they did differently than the 1,000 other times I've seen somebody get thrown through a wall. But when that happened, I was like, fuck, I
kept expecting throughout the show 11 to overdo it and kill Billy. Do you know what I mean? I think that wouldn't stop the mind flare at all, and that would be a tragedy. I kept trying to kill Billy in an effective, emotional way in my mind throughout this show, and they have their own take on that eventually, but my ways are better. So
do you guys think so? With the end of this season, do you think that the people? Let me back up. Did you guys hear that they're rebooting Power Rangers again?
I did not
hear that. No.
They're making another Power Rangers movie. Do you think that they're kicking themselves in the foot for announcing that reboot? Because the actor who played Billy was the main Power Ranger kid in the last reboot they did like a year ago or a couple years ago.
That movie, he's in it?
Yeah, he's one of the main Rangers. And do you think they're like, damn it, why did we announce that we're rebooting it again? We could have just got on the high of Billy.
I was just thinking he would make a great Power Ranger. Yeah. I actually see like a young Heath Ledger, especially in the sauna.
Ooh, yeah.
Because when my favorite, actually, I didn't even mention it, but my favorite Billy, and I wish people could see me on video, is when he first sees what's obviously a dummy in the sauna and thinks it's a kid. And he like smiles and claps. Like it reminds me of the Joker. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, oh, goody, let's play. He's so excited that he found the little fucker. And it's awesome. And it's super scary. He's really well done. If you need to watch, I think his name's Dacre. I keep saying that. His audition tapes are online now for auditioning for Billy. It's fascinating what he chose to do, and he does 3 or 4 different like 80s style things, and it's really neat. Anyway, those are our favorite moments. Thank you so much for tuning in. But before we leave you, we've got an email from one of our cherished listeners that Steve would like to read. Steve, take it away.
Oh, this email comes in from Phil Armstrong. He writes, "Hello. After recently completing both the entirety of Season 2 as well as Season 3's inaugural episode, I cannot help but feel like Hopper's character has shifted to a sort of vestigial tail whose role was exercised well in the previous 2 seasons, but is now left without much to do except provide comedic relief in a sort of, oh, darn those kids, tropey kind of way. Are you getting this, or is this an unfair criticism? Friends do reply."
Clever at the end comment there. I think Andy said no comment. Get it? Boom. I think it's unfair to really answer that because now we've all seen the entire season. That's obviously not true. That may have been what they were. I may have gotten that vibe in the first couple episodes without realizing it, or had he brought that up then, I might have been like, oh shit, yeah, maybe. But it's tough now to really. You know what I mean? Respond to that in an intellectual way because I have the other 5 episodes to be like, no, clearly not,
I actually did respond to it right after Steve said no reply. So what I said was, that's an interesting viewpoint. Since he's gone through the arc of coming to terms with his daughter's death, he's kind of been adrift with his characterization. I love seeing the, oh, this is what it's like having a teenage daughter thread. We had it a bit in Season 2, but now that dating social life is in the picture, it's a whole new ballgame. And I'm glad that they've moved on from grieving father being his defining trait, but I agree that they could be doing more with him. I think that dynamic with Joyce, how to move on from tragedy, how to be a single parent, mutual mentor thing has a lot of potential. There's still a lot of season left to see how it grows. Curious to hear your thoughts at the end of the season. So,
there you go.
It grew.
Fucking thorough. Andy's usually better with the emails than us. So if you do email streamingthingspod@gmail.com, expect Andy's reply well before mine. Unless you're an important giant news conglomerate trying to give us an interview spot, then I will reply with some smart ass shit thinking you're spam. That still just fucking horrifies me that I did that to us.
When we were in Alabama, there was a couple times where Sam would look over at me and go, "Hey, remember when Chris messed up that news thing?"
Remember when you guys were about to be hot shit in Canada and he ruined it? He asked her what it was a boot. Anyway, yes, email streamingthingspod@gmail.com. Please rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you're hearing this podcast, especially if it's iTunes. Tune in soon. We're going to try to get caught back up and then wrap up our Stranger Things coverage and then delve into the next journey, right? Chasing Moby Dick, as it were. My name is Chris.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Steve.
This has been Streaming Things, a Stranger Things podcast for a little bit while longer.
Stranger Things podcast.
Stranger Things podcast for a little while longer. Welcome back. My name is Chris.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Steve.
And this is...
You caught me with a mouthful of vape, dude.
Streaming Things.
Apparently this is vaping
Vape and
right
nerd.
now.
Vaping thing.
Yeah, Andy, we found out you can totally hear the vapes. I don't know if you remember that.